that if you're a senior citizen who's making less than $50,000 a year or getting less than $50,000 in Social Security benefits, then you shouldn't have to pay taxes on that Social Security income. Homeowners who do not itemize their deductions, we want to give you a mortgage deduction credit. And we're going to pay for that by closing loopholes, closing tax havens, and yes, rolling back some of these breaks that have gone to disproportionately the wealthiest Americans. That will help the economy grow, because part of the reason we've got a bubble financially, first in the internet sphere and then in the real estate market, is because of what John referred to earlier. You've got all this money going to the top 1%, and they're looking for ways to park the money. We need that money in the pockets of hardworking Americans who deserve it. They will know how to spend it, and they will actually help spur business growth across the country.
Time's up, Senator. One more question from Natalie.
And this one is for Senator Clinton, and you spoke already about foreclosure rates. So on that subject, this was coming from Christian Denny from Henderson, Nevada. Senator Clinton, recently while visiting Las Vegas, you mentioned your plan to freeze interest rates to help prevent foreclosures. Are you aware of any long-term effects on the housing market and our economy that this may cause?
Well, Natalie, I think that the question really goes to the heart of what we're trying to do here. We have short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals when it comes to our economy. You know, the Federal Reserve is cutting interest rates in order to spur the economy. But because of a lot of the way these mortgages were structured, the interest rates are going to keep going up. And a lot of people who can pay what they're paying now will not be able to pay what they're expected to pay next month or the month after that. So freezing the interest rates is not only a way of being able to stabilize the housing market, but it also is in line with what the Fed is doing on monetary policy. In other words, you can't be cutting interest rates in one part of the economy and letting them go through the roof in the other part, and expect to be able to stimulate the kind of economic growth that we need to have right now. I have other pieces of my economic action plan. In addition to dealing with the home foreclosure issue on the moratorium and the rate freeze, I'd like to have a fund of about $30 billion that communities and states could go to work in order to prevent foreclosures and the consequences of foreclosures. When I was talking about this issue last week here in Las Vegas, somebody from the mayor's office said they're starting to see a slowdown in property tax receipts. That means police services and other services start to deteriorate. That compounds the problem. I want to see money in the pockets of people who are having trouble paying their energy bills. That stimulates the economy. I want to make sure the unemployment compensation system is there for people as they begin to get laid off, which is happening here in Las Vegas and around the country. And then finally, I want to have about $5 billion put to work right now to employ people in green-collar jobs, like I saw when I was in LA last week with electrical workers being trained to put in solar panels. And then if we need additional stimulation, we should look at tax rebates for middle class and working families, not for the wealthy who've already done very well under George Bush.
Two bits of housekeeping at this point. I've been asked to remind our candidates that we have a system of lights that they can plainly see. The yellow one starts flashing. The yellow one starts flashing when they're starting to run out of time, and the red one starts flashing when they are out of time. And another reminder that only 7 feet separates us from the candidates. Now to that segment we promised earlier. We asked the candidates and their campaigns to come here tonight prepared with 2 questions, one for each of their opposition candidates. It's not our intention that these be novelty or at all throwaway questions, but that they be real questions. And we should know right away here whether this was a good or a very bad idea. Senator Edwards, I would like to start with you. A question for Senator Obama and a question for Senator Clinton.
I get to do both to begin with?
Sure.
Okay. Well, let me start this question. This is about campaign finances. And let me start it by saying the obvious, which is all 3 of us have raised a great deal of money in this campaign. And so this is not preachy or holier than thou in any possible way. What we know is that all 3 of us want to do something about health care in this country. We also know that until recently, Senator Clinton had raised more money from drug companies and insurance companies than any candidate, Democrat or Republican, until you passed her, Senator Obama, recently to go to number 1. My question is, do you think these people expect something for this money? Why do they give it? Do they think that it's for good government? Why do they do it?
Well, let's be clear, John. I just want to make sure that we understand. I don't take money from federal lobbyists. I don't take money from PACs.
As I don't either.
As you don't either. What happens is that you've got if you've got a mid-level executive at a drug company or insurance company who is inspired by my message of change and they send me money, then that's recorded as money from the drug or the insurance industry, even though it's not organized, coordinated, or in any way subject to the problems that you see when lobbyists are given money. Yeah. And I'm proud of the fact that I've raised more money from small donors than anybody else, and that we're getting $25, $50, $100 donations, and we've done very well doing it that way. Now, what I'm also proud of is the fact that in reducing special interest lobbying, I, alone of the candidates here, have actually taken away the power of lobbyists. Part of the reason that you know who's bundling money for various candidates is because of a law I passed this year, which says lobbyists, if you are taking money from anybody and putting it together and then giving it to a member of Congress, that has to be disclosed. Ultimately, what I'd like to see is a system of public financing of campaigns, and I'm a co-sponsor of the proposal that's in the Senate right now. That's what we have to fight for. In the meantime, what I'm very proud of is to make sure that we continue to make progress at the federal level to push back the influence that lobbyists have right now, and that's something that I'm going to continue to work on.
Now, I've been told in midstream here, Senator Edwards, I have to take away one of your options. We apparently told the campaigns bring one question for an opponent, which now brings us to you, Senator Clinton. So you get your choice on either side.
Well, I want to ask Senator Obama to join me in doing something. You know, we both very much want to convince President Bush, which is not easy to do, in the remaining year to end the war in Iraq, to change direction. It appears that not only is he refusing to do that, but that he has continued to say he can enter into an agreement with the Iraqi government without bringing it for approval to the United States Congress that would continue America's presence in Iraq long after President Bush leaves office. I find that absolutely unacceptable. And I think we have to do everything we can to prevent President Bush from binding the hands of the next president. So I've introduced legislation that clearly requires President Bush to come to the United States Congress. It is not enough, as he claims, to go to the Iraqi parliament, but to come to the United States Congress to get anything that he's trying to do, including permanent bases, numbers of troops, all the other commitments he's talking about as he's traveling in that region. And I want to ask Senator Obama if you will co-sponsor my legislation to try to rein in President Bush so that he doesn't commit this country to his policy in Iraq, which both of us are committed to end.
Well, I think we can work on this, Hillary, because I don't think, we got unity in the Democratic Party, I hope, on this. The notion that President Bush could somehow tie the hands of the next president, I think, is contrary to how our democracy is supposed to work, and the voices of the American people who spoke out in 2006, and I expect will speak out again in 2008. I have opposed this war consistently. I have put forward a plan that will get our troops out by the end of 2009. And we already saw today reports that the Iraqi minister suggests that we're going to be in there at least until 2018. 2018, 10 years, a decade-long commitment. Currently, we are spending $9 to $10 billion a month. And the notion is that we're going to sustain that at the same time as we're neglecting what we see happening in Afghanistan right now, where you have a luxury hotel in Kabul that was blown up by militants, and the situation continues to worsen. My first job as President of the United States is going to be to call in the Joint Chiefs of Staff and say, you've got a new mission, and that is to responsibly, carefully, but deliberately start to phase out our involvement there and to make sure that we are putting the onus on the Iraqi government to come together and do what they need to do to arrive at peace.
Just interrupt here before I give you your question. Would the other two of you join in the 2009 pledge that Senator Obama has made concerning the withdrawal of American troops?
Oh, yes. I'm on record as saying exactly that as soon as